This morning I'm going to talk a little bit about goals, and I have a few quotes here off my notice board or my affirmation board, which I'll get to in a minute because what I'm about to say leads to these. So we're taught goal setting from a young age. Well, actually, most of us, if we go down that path, we learn it ourselves because they don't teach it at school, even though it's so important. I didn't learn anything about it at university or even from my parents. Most people just sort of wander around life with little direction. There's set things that they're pre-programmed to achieve. They might be things like, and depending on the person, might be go to school, get a trade, get a loan, buy a house, get married, have kids, get a dog, maybe a boat, maybe a beach house, go on a holiday once a year. So you'll fall into that programming, especially if that's what your parents have done, and that's what your friends and neighbours do. Others maybe similar path after the uni, maybe university, get a degree, work in that degree forever, or maybe occasionally change organisation you work for. Some people may eventually open their own business. Others realise that they want more freedom in their life earlier. So after the studies, it may be open your own business, work for yourself, which in the beginning is very little freedom because it takes time and effort to build it up in most cases. Probably more time than you would put into a working 9-to-5 job. In my case, definitely many years of 100 hours a week to get to the point when now I don't have to work so many hours a week because I can afford to employ good staff to do most of the running of the business. And we set other goals for ourselves, what type of house, what type of car, and so on. And these are all great, and I think it's great to have goals. I've always had and achieved my goals. I would write them down, draw pictures. This is even before I knew about goal setting. This is as a kid, draw pictures of my martial arts school and what I want to achieve in martial arts. It was only later through courses I learnt about goal setting and realised that I had naturally been doing that anyway. As a kid, visualising, daydreaming. In my school reports, I remember on a few occasions it said that I would daydream. Even in high school, my dad got called in by my physics and chemistry teacher, and he said I would just be staring out the window into space. So the schooling system don't like that. They think there's something wrong with this kid, or you're not focusing on what they're teaching, which a lot of it you'll never use. You'll use the English, not to the extent that you get taught. You use the maths, not to the extent that you get taught, unless you're going into engineering or something. So, the calculus, algebra, and so on. Very rarely would I use any of that these days. And the English, a lot of what I learnt in English literature, I have no need for. It was really, it was interesting, but a waste of time. And there's so many subjects. Like I didn't study history, but I think most of us know that history has what we taught is not the actual history. And if you go and look at what archaeologists have found and what geologists have found by taking core samples in Antarctica, they can tell you a bit more through the gases they studied and what they find in the ice, more about what the true history is. So there's been a lot of information covered up, and a lot of what we've wasted our time at school learning. Even at university, I reckon half the subjects that I learnt were a waste of time. So look at goals. I used to write down, or more draw pictures, cut out pictures, stick them on a board. And I remember after some time I achieved everything on the board. So I'll just take the picture down or put a drawing pin through it as I achieved them. And once they were set, and they're in my mind, and as long as I still wanted to achieve that, they were pretty much done. And I remember I had a business coach years ago, many years ago, and he had his, in his office, I saw this model of a car. I think he called it an Aston Martin. He said that was his goal, and I told him my goals, and he asked me about the goal setting process, and we went through that. And I said, once I've decided I want it, and I draw it down, visualize it, that vision, that thought will be in my mind regularly every day. And I'll always achieve it unless I change my mind somewhere along the line and want to do something else, because the thing I want to do may be more in alignment, or something that excites me a bit more. And he couldn't really get that, because I actually said once I've decided it, it's already achieved, which is different to the goal setting process. So what I found after achieving quite a few of these boards is that setting the goal is exciting. Working towards it is exciting. It's like you're climbing that hill. Thinking about it, visualizing it, what color will the car be, what sort of wheels, what sort of interior, and everything down to a T, and actually their feeling and emotion, and then go to car yards and actually sit in one and ask for a test drive, and go and visit display homes, look at all the ideas. I love those tiles, like those lights. That spa's a great idea. I like the way they designed the kitchen. And then I'd go home and note all the aspects I like and things I didn't like. And then I'll cut out of home magazines little features from different houses that I liked. And then I constructed in picture form and in my mind my house. And I actually bought an old house and renovated it exactly the way I wanted it. And what I find each time, whether it's a car, a house, or whatever, it's the process of getting there that's very exciting, and having it built, working with the tradespeople, test driving the car. And I've found in my case, and it may not be with everyone, but I know for a lot of people this is the case, once you achieve it, it's not so exciting anymore. So my example, every time I've bought a car, very exciting, drive it from the car yard, it's great, wash it the first week, and I've never washed it again. After about 2-3 weeks of driving it, it's like, okay, it's just a car now, and there's no buzz, no excitement. So there was obviously some sort of excitement, endorphin rush, hormones kicking in, and then it's like, what's next? I need another goal to strive towards. Well, that's what we think anyway. That's what we kind of taught. And also, I think it's a little bit innate to keep achieving, or maybe a lot innate. Same with the house. One room at a time over 10 years, slowly. Enjoyable, tiring process, but you're just driven. You just have the energy because you have this burning desire to achieve this. And then say the bathroom's done, looks fantastic. Used the bath, had a double shower head, used that a few times, and that was it. Then I just used a little shower upstairs. After that, I was just quite as happy. It's easier because bedroom's upstairs, and I used the little bathroom, and the one downstairs really never got used. And I noticed this pattern, that it was achieving, and the first few days or few weeks of excitement, and then it's like, oh yeah, what am I going to do next? I'll get a little bit bored. So I converted the backyard into an orchard. This is over many years, and there's a video on it on YouTube. If you look up the Cobra Martial Arts and Fitness Center YouTube for Cannington, I think there's 2 videos of the orchard after about a year or 2. Tropical fruit and all sorts of fruit, but I really like growing the tropical fruit: mangoes, longans, custard apples. So I spent all this time outside. I would stay there because for some reason I just had this energy to do that. Even during the day, I might not have had the same amount of energy when I'm at work, but when I was in the orchard, outdoors, in nature, and achieving and planting, doing something what I found exciting, researching. I built this orchard, and I ran out of room to plant, and then it's like, oh, this is probably after a year and a half. It's like, oh, okay, so what do I do next? These trees are just sitting there. I just have to water them, fertilise them, something now and then, and just follow my little procedure on how to maintain them organically, because that was the idea. So then I started converting an extra area, which was garden, ripped all that out, and I go, okay, let's start planting again. There's probably about 100 fruit trees planted before I totally run out of room and needed to keep a little bit of lawn. And then again, once it was done, it was okay. So we got some weeding, some pruning, but the creation, and that's what it is, the creative power that had finished. And I really wasn't interested in the orchard anymore after that. Just occasionally walk out there because it was like being in a rainforest. Once it was 2-3 years old, trees were big, and it was nice to sit out there, and attracted a lot of birds and insects. So what I'm saying is it the achievement of a goal, or the buying of a new pair of shoes, or the buying of a new car, or the buying of a new house, or the buying of a new jacket or handbag or whatever? What is it in saving and then buying it? Because once people have the new pair of shoes and wear it for a bit, it's not so exciting. And then they see a new model come out, which is part of the corporation marketing, even new phones. Everyone has to have the new phone all the time, and the old phone was just fine. So people achieve things, and then it's like they get this boost, like a drug almost, and this drive towards it, and then it's like, okay, when's my next endorphin hit? And the same as social media, getting likes. People are addicted to that. You should work out if you are addicted or not addicted. An easy way to do that is to stop using social media for, let's say, 2 days. And if you can't do that totally, don't check it at all, then you probably have an addiction to the feeling you get from information, whether that be a feeling of fear or a feeling of making yourself feel worthy, like self-worth, with all these likes from people, many of them who you've probably never met. Okay, but really you need to like yourself internally, and that's something we can talk about in another audio. You need to be complete within yourself, and love yourself for yourself, rather than need all this validation externally. And that takes a lot of inner work, sometimes called shadow work. Go have a look at shadow work and start working on that, because people aren't taught this deliberately, so they can't start clearing out all these negative self-images and emotions and past traumas, the energy from past traumas, those emotions, it's in them, and it's like, it feels like there's something broken or a lack of within each person. So they try to fix this by getting a nice feeling from anything, whether it be overtraining, overeating, gambling, taking drugs. It can be anything at all. Over gardening, anything which goes out of balance. If it's something that is giving you some pleasure or some sense of self-worthiness, then it's pointing to a lack. There's something missing, something that needs to be addressed. So you need to look at shadow work or spiritual development, because otherwise you're not going to learn this, and you're never going to get to a point where you can just be happy, or even content or happy, just on your own, without validation from social media or anything like that, without another person to complete you. That's another thing we've been conditioned to through movies. Or everyone needs this person to complete them. Well, that's not exactly true, because you should be able to get to yourself to a point of being complete within yourself and quite happy in your own company. And if you're always looking for something to complete you, then there's something missing or something that hasn't been addressed within yourself that needs to be worked on. Otherwise, you're always going to be chasing these other things or other person to feel complete. And of course, if it doesn't work out, or you leave or the other person leaves, then you're in a state of turmoil and anxiety and depression, because the piece that was supposedly to complete you is no longer there. But once you're with completing yourself, you find you're not chasing anyone or anything in particular. You're just being, and this is one of my quotes, I am complete as I am. Another quote, I am already doing everything I need to do. So another thing is just be. You don't have to be this, that, and the other. It is okay to just be. So once you get to the point, and it might take years of work, a lot of people, I know guys, will go through somewhere in their life a monk phase where they just sort of retreat and just spend a lot of time on their own. Yeah, women might do it too, but I've been studying, what guys do at a certain point, and that point is just finding yourself, finding who you are, and without all the distractions of having to cater for everyone else. And it's some time to heal till you get to the point. Ideally, you don't want to rush out of this, where you find that I'm just quite happy doing my own thing, not having to follow what other people do. And you'll find when you get to that point, all these things that you've been chasing will actually chase you. They'll be attracted to you because you are now complete. Now everyone else is looking for completion, but what you will attract is, besides people that are looking for completion, but that's more like energy vampires looking to drain you, you'll also find that other people who are complete, which are often people that have done this inner spiritual work, they get to a point of completion. Now, I would say that we never complete, because we're always expanding, evolving, but we're doing quite well. There's always things to work on, because even after this life, it keeps going. We're always developing and evolving. But a lot of the human issues, we've dealt with or done a fairly good job at dealing with. So you'll find more people who are more complete will start. They'll start popping up. You'll meet them because you're at a certain vibrational frequency, emotional frequency, in line with these people, and you attract equivalent energy. So these quotes here, one is, I am complete as I am. That's a good one for you to say to yourself. You stick it up somewhere. I have all mine in my kitchen because I'm here for a fair bit of time. I'm quite focused on my nutrition and eliminating toxins and inflammatory substances from my diet. So I'm in the kitchen a fair bit, and these are always right in front of me. I am complete as I am. So realize that you are complete as you are, even if you feel broken and there are things you haven't dealt with from your past. You're still where you're meant to be right now. So that that may not make full sense, but everyone is, and everyone is doing what they are meant to be doing, and everyone is where they are meant to be, because that's why you're there. If you weren't meant to be there, you wouldn't be there. You'd be in another situation if you had put yourself into the other situation, done the healing work earlier. And you might say, well, what about kids that are homeless, blah, blah, blah. That one's a little bit harder to explain if you don't understand past lives, because we only have one life. That is a life that was always there and will always be there. Okay, because we are energy created by Source. We are part of Source. Source, or the universe, was always there and will always be here. There's no beginning and end, which is not something the human brain can comprehend, because we're trying to work this out through a physical brain. but it's a understanding or concept which is other dimensional. It's higher dimensional, and we can't understand a lot of the higher dimensional stuff through a human brain. But realize that you've always existed in one form or another, because energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed from one form to another. So the child that's homeless, you might say, well, what did they do to deserve that? Well, you don't know their past story going back hundreds and thousands of years. Next quote is, I'm already doing everything I need to do. So rather than being stressed that I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that, that's fine. Have those goals, work towards that. You don't know if they're in line with what your soul wants you to do, though, because your soul is in charge in the end, and will let the human drive things for a matter of time, maybe a long time, 40, 50 years, but eventually it will say, okay, it's time to, and it might be earlier in life too, it's time to get back onto your mission, what you were actually born to do. You've got all these skills and traits and talents from the past. So we're just going to rip everything out from under you, because otherwise you're not going to do it, even though you've got these little intuitions and dreams and ideas which aren't going in the right direction. You're just stuck in this mold, in this system. So we're going to rip everything out from you and then rebuild you up again. And from that point, goal setting is not going to work too well for you. And I've seen this time and time again, because what it might do, it depends if your goals are in line with your truth, with your soul, what your soul wants from you. So I've got a little quote here: powerful, calm and complete, standing in my truth, I am the light and so it is. Okay, the light being the universe itself. You're part of that. And you always need to follow your truth, because that is what you believe, as long as it's for good and help humanity, or it doesn't even have to be humanity, but people. So your soul has this direction for you. If your goals are in line with that direction, those are the ones that you will achieve. This still may take some effort, but then again, it may not. Because I've found sometimes I can achieve my goals very quickly. Other times there's some resistance, and I don't know what the resistance is, but I'm working it out now. So some goals are not in line with what your soul wants. So it may be to live in a certain place where it's not meant to be, from a soul point of view, not meant to be where you're living, because you've got duties in another place. Or you may be drawn to a certain place. Oh, I want to go and live in the country or the hills or a certain country. I've seen this many times, where someone just finds themselves living in another country, are drawn there, and then everything just falls into place for them at that place, and that point. And they realize then later they've had past lives there and have a connection to that place, and that is where they need to be, and that's where they feel fulfilled and happy. So have a think about your goals, because particularly now in the new energies, with the dimensional shift, which is already here, if your goal is not in alignment, if your goal is in alignment with what you see on TV, what the pop stars and movie stars are achieving, what they're buying, what clothes they're wearing, and to have this many investment houses and blah blah blah, if that is not in line with your soul, it's going to be very difficult to even set the goal. So I set goals quite regularly, and 2 years ago, when COVID hit, I went to set goals in my usual way, and I just didn't know what to write. First time ever. It's like writer's block. So I always know what's next, what to write. I couldn't write anything, and I was with this. It was a light worker. The lady's a light worker, and she said, "Well, what do you want to achieve from here?" And I said, "Oh, I just want to continue on. Just want to be happy." And she says, "Oh no, we're setting goals. So where do you want to live? What house do you want to live in? What car do you want?" And said, "I don't really care. It doesn't bother me as long as I'm happy." I said, I could be homeless but happy, or I could be in a mansion and unhappy. I just want, if you're happy, A lot of things we do in life, and a lot of things we set goals for, and we get married, and all these things we do to achieve happiness. So what if you could just be happy? Then it doesn't matter what your situation is, whether you've got a lot of money or little money. If you can be happy, well, then you've already achieved it, because the end goal is happiness. Yeah, and she didn't really know how to respond to that one, and I didn't. I thought, oh, yeah, this is really strange for me, not having any goals. But 2 years later, every time I go to write down goals, I can write down little things, like I like to go on a holiday, and probably need to upgrade my car somewhere along the line, because I've had the same one for 12 years now, and there's a few things going wrong with it. And I've definitely got my training goals and physical health goals, but all the other material type stuff, don't really care about. One reason might be because I've already achieved a lot of that sort of stuff. So I've got a house and got a business, so it's a bit easier for me to say don't have so many material goals. But I've also found other people in the same situation, and some of the coaches I watch on YouTube as well are saying in this new energy it's very difficult to set goals that aren't in alignment with your sole purpose. So if you are having trouble setting goals at the moment and have never had trouble in the past, or even trouble achieving them when in the past, everything would just fall into place. This could be part of the reason. Thank you.